Okay, so good afternoon. I am Anto Budiarjo. Welcome to Monday Live. This is something that we do every Monday afternoon to try and figure out what the future is going to be like for smart buildings. In case you're wondering who we are listed on mondaylive.org, so head over there to find our profiles. And just a reminder that views expressed here are personal, not of any company or organization, so keep that in mind. And let's make this as interactive as possible and have a conversation on the Zoom chat. That'd be really great. And also, this deck is available on mondaylive.org in case you need any of the links or any of the information we presented. So this being the 1st of April, we are going to start to cover the month. The theme of the month is AI, artificial intelligence. So we're going to be talking about that for this week and the next 4 weeks. So really looking forward to that. Our specific focus today is just a sort of an open conversation, like what we do at the beginning of every month about the topic. In this case, what is AI? Is it sort of is a field of dreams a way of thinking about that, and what does that mean for each of us? So we're going to go around the table here and have a discussion about that. Hopefully that'll be interesting. And this is part of a series of themes we've been doing since February. We started talking about OT, then we morphed into talking about IoT for the whole month of March. And the whole idea is that both of these would then take us to the discussion on AI, which is obviously a significant thing for the industry in the future. So this is kind of the flow. Looking forward to see where this goes. But before we do that, I'm going to hand it over to Ken. Going on, Ken?
Lots, as always. Just listening to what you guys are always talking about and trying to capture some of this. We've had some good discussions. We've talked about is AI a tool, a medium? But the conclusion we came is that without operating technology or IoT, it doesn't do anything. So we're in a very good place right now because almost everything is going to have to come through us. But I think it was Tracy brought up the idea is AI is a scientific field. And so I started digging into that a bit. And artificial intelligence, or AI, is a field established in 1950, which is kind of surprisingly. And it combines the study of machine learning, algorithms, production, and natural language. Truly a field of dreams, and truly, if we build it, they will come. And I believe in both of those. There's been a couple of things going back and forth on social media. Is it the end of the world, or is it a gold mine? And I definitely believe for our industry, it's a gold mine. It is going to make us visible because, as I mentioned in the, it's basically OT and IoT that actually makes the actual wishes, carries out the wishes of AI. The other thing is April 9th is IoT Day. And so I outdid them with that. And I said, well, we just had IoT month. So I created a post and submitted it as a event for IoT Day, and it got accepted. So basically, when people come to IoT Day, they can basically click and see what we did for IoT month. So that's online now. Below that, there's a Beagle board that's kind of interesting. This is one of our past contributing editors basically brought this to my attention. And it has a AI processor on it. And I'm not sure if I can read it off of my screen, but it does a lot of calculations very rapidly. And
4 trillion, it says.
How much?
4 trillion.
4 trillion. That's a big number. I don't know how much that is, but that seems to be faster than I can calculate stuff. And working with AI, it allows you to pull in a lot of information, and it costs $70. So it seems logical that some of our controllers will start using technologies like that. So that's an interesting one. The I'm looking forward to our discussion on AI. I think there's going to be a lot of neat stuff come out of it. And we've got this post that was basically a summation of our last Monday Live, the future of OT and IoT in an AI world, which made a nice transition. If you take a look at the IBCOM program, which is back up there on the right-hand side, if you click on that, it actually takes you to the programming is starting to evolve for Realcomm, IBCOM, and probably 50% of the topics are AI. So I think everything we're doing is real timely. Looking forward to the month. Back to you, Anton.
Cool. Thank you, Ken. Okay. Okay. Couple of things. On the left is an organization that was actually new to me until recently, called the Ultra Ethernet Consortium. I didn't know that existed. They exist not to worry about the sort of Ethernet that we typically use, sort of gigabit Ethernet. They're all about how Ethernet is within a data center cluster. So they're talking about moving enormous amounts of data very, very quickly, which is really key to AI. And this was the organization was not sure if it was created for AI, but it certainly has got AI sort of driving it right now to make sure that there's fast network in data centers. You didn't think that was a problem. That is a problem, apparently. So that's what they're focused on. And this is obviously is not our space, but the reason I put it up here is that lots of people are trying to figure out how to do what we're talking about here, to enable AI in the future. So this is just one part of it. So that's kind of the reason I brought that up there. The second thing I put up there this week is the IoT Analytics, which is a research firm that does this report every quarter, where they basically scrape transcripts of all of the public company CEO reports, quarterly reports, and they basically come up with a word cloud of what everybody's talking about. And it's interesting to see the AI, surprise, surprise, is on the rise, and you can actually see it here on the low chart that over the past 4 quarters, it's basically just increased very, very significantly. And we've actually been tracking this over the past year. Here, I've been showing these charts. And this is it in more detail. And just look at that, AI everywhere, AI everywhere. There's AI in the big and growing importance, AI over here, AI over there. And chatbots is obviously sort of part of all of that, although that seems to be sort of diminishing, fading. And even economic concerns and war seems to be diminishing, which is probably not a bad thing. So I just thought that this is interesting to bring up to the group here. Any thoughts that sort of jump out? Anybody looking at this?
Yeah, the big mistake I did with AI, I'm guessing like others did, I didn't invest in NVIDIA early enough.
Anto, if energy efficiency, sustainability, and renewable energy are so high on this chart, how come nobody's paying for any of this stuff?
I know that is obviously the odd thing.
Too expensive. It's too expensive. That's an easy answer.
Okay. But it is interesting to see that big blob of sustainability there as a topic.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was actually reflecting on this, and I've been trying to track this thing that they do every quarter, is to just sort of show it, is that how rapidly it changes from quarter to quarter, right? Because I can't remember what the previous quarter was, but it wasn't anything like this. It's obviously sort of very in the moment, which is what's good about this chart, but it's also means that CEOs are going wherever, in many ways, wherever the society is going and what we're talking about. right? So it's almost like there's nothing special about them. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, wherever they can move their stock, right?
Exactly.
I think one of the comments I'd make about sustainability is starting to hit them hard on where they get their money. What's happening is like the life companies and stuff that basically have been providing them. They've been investing heavily in buildings, and now they're asking, is this building sustainable? Is it going to be still occupied in 10 years? Is it green? Is it polluting carbon? You know, so that's some of those things have turned them around. So I think it's hitting them on the cash into their operation. And they haven't we haven't created the bridge to tell them that a lot of the sustainability is in just making what you've got way more efficient. And, you know, but trying to put numbers on that's difficult. So my shot from the hip there.
And another way to look at it is that sustainability and reducing energy cost, spend and whatever is what shareholders are looking for in public companies. Are they looking for, let's use AI as an example, yet don't know. So anyway, I would argue that that's part of the driver to your question, Jim Lee.
Actually, they're starting to rate a lot of the stocks now as to the sustainability.
Correct.
There's actually a number for that, I think.
And I just looked at this article that I linked at, and there's an equivalent of this chart for sustainability. It's, in other words, dimensions of sustainability across the looks like 2 or 3 years. And on the sustainability one, it's been pretty steady actually. It's actually been growing gently since 2019, but it's pretty steady in the last couple of years. So FYI.
It would be an interesting analysis back to your point from quarter to quarter to see, I don't know, pick last 2 years quarters and doing a morph map. You know, how do these bubbles flow over the 2 years?
I wonder if you could load these charts up to Chat GPT and see what it would say over time.
Well, they are IoT analytics companies, so I would have thought that they would probably be going down the same path. Produce a report and charge thousands of dollars for it. Anyway, interesting stuff. The link board as always. Anything else? Anybody want to bring up anything new before we move on? Hearing nothing. Okay, so let's talk about AI. And so the meme of a field of dreams, right? So I obviously had AI do this for me because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I? So the idea for this conversation is, what do we think? You know, what the field of dreams and the whole sort of build it and they'll come notion is all about passion, right? Something is passionate, you would actually do it before there's any proof of it. That's kind of the concept behind it, right? So what is it with AI that gives us this sort of passion or enthusiasm to look forward? That's kind of the model of how we want to sort of frame this conversation. And sort of my way of sort of answering that question is that if they build it, they will come, is kind of the phrase that we think of. My question is if we build it, what is it? Right? Because the sort of the normal depiction of this whole thing is that cornfields in Iowa, Rick is happy about that, and this is kind of what you would do, and this is obviously what you would do in America. But if this is going to be built for the future that's unknown, are we building this, whatever this is, for AI, or are we building it so that AI can work? And also, what are the rules? Well, what is the game that AI is going to play? I mean, if AI is going to play baseball, I don't think they're going to play in a baseball diamond that looks like a normal one, right? So it's just like we're making assumptions, and I'm wondering what they are. And I think the sort of the important part of all of this is that the field is for AI, I think for our perspective, needs to be a field that allows data to be used. That's really what the field is. It's the field of data that can actually be easily used, and to be kind of the game, which is not really a game. It's pretty serious. So that's kind of the way I think about it, is that we need a really, really good data infrastructure for AI to really flourish. It's kind of my way of thinking about it, but I'll put it up to the group.
Within our context, right?
Yes, of course.
You want to? I'll start off with so here's my take, just on different directions and stuff. One of the things I think that AI has been successful with is actually the marketing of the name AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So for those of you who don't know, and several don't, way back when, my brother and I actually had a patent on a VAV controller that was based on, in those days, called fuzzy logic, which was the precursor to neural nets, right? And we actually have a patent on that, and how you can, and the reason we did it was just to accelerate commissioning of VAV boxes. But the funny thing is, the biggest challenge we had was that no one liked the term fuzzy logic, because it implied that it wasn't so good, the type of approach, even though it wasn't anything to do with that structure. But actually just changing the words from that to artificial intelligence goes a long way to marketing is a big deal, right? At the end of the day. So marketing is important. It does tell you that marketing is important in AI as artificial intelligence. People like to believe that there's a lot of magic behind it, and there's that this artificial intelligence is limitless and will exceed whatever capabilities we've got in our own intelligence. So I think there's a lot of hype in the name per se. Having said that, the technology has changed dramatically in the 25 years since first put the patent together on a VAV. And that's evidenced by, you look at companies like NVIDIA, right, who's just making the compute power in their processors now, is beyond what anyone ever has imagined for some time, in that stuff. So technology has come up, but marketing has done a lot of interesting clear up, I guess, or has added to the equation of, if it's AI, therefore it must be really great because it's better than what I can do as a person. And I think that's not the case, right? Just to be clear, AI is not something that I can do as a person. It's just something that people can do faster. And at the end of the day,
lot faster.
A lot faster, yes. And a lot faster is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. To be able to do what we do a lot faster is a big deal. But at the end of the day, like, again, if you asked, as the picture that you created here, right, Anto, you said, create the picture with the robots playing baseball in a cornfield. It's only going to be able to get what you've said by the reference of the material out there. It's the same as if I say, paint a picture of Steve Fay in the style of, Leonardo, right? It can only do that. You can't say create me an original of Steve Fay, because it doesn't, and it has no data to work from.
I kind of thinking about the question, the thing that comes to mind, why has this gotten such a response, right? Why are people so hyped up about this? And I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, for decades in the popular culture, movies and such, they've portrayed AI as all kinds of different amazing things, right? Good and bad. So it's been in our minds and in our kind of culture for a long time. And then I have to give credit, when OpenAI launched Chat GPT, openly free for everybody. And those early capabilities that showed in what it could do, I think really amazed a lot of people, myself included, in terms of just things you never would think of. I remember when that first launched, my daughter-in-law asked if I'd read it or tried it, and I said, "Oh, I heard about it." And she said, "We were having it write love letters for us when we were playing with it today at the office." And sure enough, it wrote a great love letter. She showed me what the input was and comes out with this nicely written love letter. And I'm like, "Is that all it does?" And then she explained, of course, no, that's not all it does. But I think it was pretty impressive. So for kind of hitting the ground running for the first broadly available general purpose generational AI, it really did a good job. And that affirmed what the possibilities could be, I think, in people's minds. At least that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, the way I put that, Tracy, is, to me, ChatGPT is to AI what Excel was to the first computers, right? It was the killer app.
Yep.
Well, it wasn't Excel. It was, what was it?
1, 2, 3.
Lotus 1, 2, 3, or
Yeah,
even two.
Lotus,
Yeah. It was the spreadsheet.
VisiCalc, actually, VisiCalc before that.
VisiCalc.
VisiCalc, yeah.
VisiCalc.
In the
I mean,
beginning.
that was the killer app for the computer, right? We were building computers and we're doing some basic processing, and could write some text on the screen and stuff, and you can make dots move around. But until the spreadsheet came out, everyone kind of said, "Okay, now I get it. Now I know what I can use a computer for," because it did change the equation, and I think that's what ChatGPT is doing too.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
As I've looked at this, I've been asking myself a lot of questions, and how the whole discussion and of AI in our marketplace, in the built environment. So I kind of look at this as that, I think we're all, me included, are thrilled by the potential of AI. But yet, I think at the same time, we're experiencing that we're all overwhelmed, especially when it comes to the unknown. We're all still, in our industry, us included on the call, we're still trying to figure it out. And there are a lot of questions that again, as I said, for example, what are the risks? What are the expected demands that lie ahead? And again, I'm not looking at the broader AI. I'm looking to what I do daily in my business. I think it's, and I'm just reading from some notes I'll just share with you guys. I mean, it's clear that, in my opinion, AI is not a magical fix for everything, even though there are people out here who think it is. However, it does have potential to make buildings smarter, healthier. My question is, where and how? What? HVA, if we look at the different elements in OT that we all operate in, HVAC, energy, sustainability, lighting, predictive maintenance, energy, equipment lifetime. I do believe AI's got some opportunities to improve operations and management of buildings through that way. But then I'm also looking at what some of the researchers have said out there from the business perspective. Ask ourselves this, is that what are we solving? What will AI solve in the built environment? I don't know that answer yet. Still trying to figure that one out. What business outcomes will, as an owner, operator, as technology providers, what outcomes are we going to get as a result of that? Is the owner, the operator, the people who buy all of our stuff, are they willing to pay for this? Again, I'm looking at it both from a technical perspective, which I'll leave that to others, but I look at it from a marketing and a business perspective. And then to your point, you mentioned data, Anto, and again, data, in my opinion, for AI is the heart of it. And what changes are we going to need to make to the way we approach data and what we deliver with respect to AI? How is it going to scale? Does it affect digital twin? You know, other things, cybersecurity, governance, the talent. All right, great. We got all this great AI stuff out there. What about the talent that will need to ensure that it's running properly or whatever, governance? So that's kind of where I'm coming from, that whole field of dreams. Again, define it. That's what I'm trying to do, define that field of dreams.
Okay, I'll take a crack at it. What I'm seeing is it everywhere. The everywhereness of it is it's affecting how we write, definitely how we present the graphics. If you don't use an AI generated graphic, you look like a kindergarten kid with a crayon. So that's a tough sell, but it's everywhere. And I love the analogy of taking it back to the first spreadsheet, which I thought was 1, 2, 3, but Rick actually out-olded me, and actually VisiCalc is quite correct, the first one. But anyway, when those tools hit, it wasn't, when you first saw it, it was like an aha moment. But the excitement, as I watched that progression, was how people use that spreadsheet. And actually the AI is in that same category. What I'm always amazed is at how somebody has used it. Like one thing that kind of shaking our head is how we organize data. We spent so much time trying to put it in bins and silos and boxes and circles and arrows. And I do believe that the speed of AI can kind of pull it out over multi databases, multi clouds. And so sometimes some of the stuff that we've fought with for years, I think its ability to work over silos is going to be a big asset to us. I'm excited just to see how the industry uses it, and everybody is using it in their own little way. People are writing specs with it. They say it's very good for that. They say it's very good. I think Anto, you made a comment early in the session about using it for writing coding and rewriting coding, and then like basically let it write the code and then try it, and it doesn't do this, and then so it would go back and it would try and figure out how it could do that. So tedious jobs, and what it does is it's sort of rapid evolution. I think is because it can think much faster than us. We're going to evolve faster than we have been, which is maybe a good thing for the species, or maybe not a good thing for the species.
Actually, just to jump, sorry, Rick.
I was just going to say, if you look at go back to the spreadsheet, right? We were talking about data and how is it going to change how we think about data. That's all the spreadsheet did, was organize the data into rows and columns with formulas, and it actually does things.
But the
right?
formula was the key to it.
Right, but the data is the same data. It's just being reorganized in this matrix, in this table.
But we had to do it. That's
well,
the difference.
there's a key thing, and we keep saying data as in data is all the same. It's actually what it's not data that we're talking about. It's processing. It's math. NVIDIA is a math coprocessor. It's not a database. And so the internet is changing in front of our eyes from being a place where we store pictures and where we store the next bit of data that the spreadsheet is going to use. The internet is changing to being a distributed computing resource. And so instead of calling them data centers in the future, I suspect they're going to be calling them calculation centers or compute centers, because it's not just about where we store our pictures anymore. And that's what AI is going to help to advance incredibly rapidly is the new architectures of how we exploit these new capabilities. And that's hard to get our heads around, but you guys have heard me say this a bunch of times, is that a valve position is really, in a lot of people's mind in our industry, that's not really data. That's a fact. So now, how do we use AI around a valve position or a VAV performance? That's what we're talking about. And again, it's a subtle thing, but it's not about data as much as it is about how is AI going to do math faster in more places.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we I feel in our industry we need to be thinking about how to take advantage of, is how we can use these little chips that do math incredibly fast, how we can use them at the edge, and how we can use them all throughout our existing architectures.
So Rick, I think from the point you just made about the technology of the chips to process it at much faster speeds, and for sure. But I think within any given silo, building automation, security, access control, whatever, the suppliers within those industries can now design their next generation products to fully take advantage of the processing power, no doubt. Okay. But to answer Mark's concerns earlier, what are the outcomes? And what are the outcomes? Well, in theory, operational efficiency will get improved just by virtue of being able to process with far more breadth and accuracy and depth to optimize the way the facility runs, or whatever the system is that's being run. So just whether, from a standpoint of energy, that's going to be, that'll be a factor. It'll also be a factor in terms of detecting failure modes quickly, and then improving the life expectancy of these systems. So because by virtue of, again, the processing power, I do believe that these, whether we're talking a chiller, a boiler, air handlers, whatever, the ability to more quickly detect situations that are potentially going to be destructive to the unit is going to be valuable. So the life cycle costs will get reduced. Okay. And then finally, the labor associated with all of these things, the people who are looking at the data today, because these artificial intelligence has the ability to do the analysis far easier, far more reliably, 24/7. There's no doubt in my mind that that's going to make a huge difference as well. Okay. So whether people aren't, in many cases, aren't even looking at the data at all, right? Now you've got a tool at in theory, a very affordable cost that will do that analysis automatically for you, and then give you heads up again as to whether you've got an issue that you need to pay attention to. And particularly where something like cybersecurity is concerned, SOC services are expensive. So being able to both detect and respond to cybersecurity incidents is a non-trivial task today. So I do view that AI tools for the purpose of detecting incidents and then being able to give precise instructions and on what to do about them and how to, because most people are not prepared in any meaningful way to deal with a cybersecurity breach. They really don't know what to do until it happens, and then all hell breaks loose. So being able to draw upon that, if you will, the wisdom of how to deal with specific incidents and provide that guidance, I think is going to be very valuable in that regard as well. And that, again, is a cost of business. So labor costs, operational efficiency, life cycle costs, those will all be powerfully benefited. The big obstacle to me, and we talk about it a lot, is accessing the data itself across systems or even within systems. And that's That's a stumbling block. I mean, it's, I'm sure those, again, when you can live within your own domain, you can engineer all the interfaces and get the data you need and want. That's not the issue. The issue is that buildings are a grab bag. You don't know what you're going to get building to building to building, right? And so you're going to have all these different vendors, and how do I easily make these AI tools get access to the data? Not easy today. We all know that. And that's where I believe this, our whole stumbling block is, and why we need to stay very focused on how to get access to the data, how to model the data, so that the AI tools can have access to the data and then do what they do well. But
let me extend that for a moment, Steve, because there's a compound problem, and you quite rightly say there's a compound problem. Most of the AI that you see today, ChatGPT, is all based on what's called a LLM, right? Large language model technologies that drives those things. Large language models works really well on metadata, right? All the metadata, whether it's Word documents, drawings, pictures, Excel.
Right, exactly.
You got to and that's great. But the stuff that we deal with is actually time series data, right? It's not what's the valve position right now. It's what was the valve position over the last 2 days, 3 days, 2 years, 6 years, compared to the temperature for the last 6 years. Today's LLM models do not work with time series data. But there's probably something that most people don't quite realize. Time series data is a whole different level of complexity for large language models. There's some interesting studies going on right now. In fact, something out of Australia, out of University of ANU. Yeah, have you seen that? So there is some initial work going on, but a lot of what's been focused on today is really the the metadata stuff that we've been, the large language of the metadata, which is interesting and, could be a case, but I don't think we've really touched the value of what we could do until we start seeing large language models on the time series data, because that's really where I need to start looking at.
Or other technologies, Anno. I mean, there are other.
Yeah.
What I'd like to point out is AI is a very broad suite of technologies. Some that are going to be better for time series, others not. And as an industry, we've got years of experience with rules-based algorithms, learning algorithms, other machine learning. All good. And I think what everyone has said so far is spot on for our industry. But what concerns me is actually the effect of AI not on our industry that is going to come to roost in our industry, which is, I believe that a lot of this technology that is being deployed will eliminate lots of jobs in faceless office buildings where people are passing rings of insurance paperwork around and other things. I think that if you have algorithms that develop drugs very well without having to put them in the lab, you need fewer places to test them. If you have fewer factory workers in a factory, you don't have to condition the space as much. So I think that the follow-on effects, just as we saw with the pandemic, destroying whole sectors of our business, I think that's much more of a threat and of higher interest. What's happening with AI in this industry? Everybody's right. It's actually, we're on a continuum, and bit by bit, this technology will be adopted and put to work. But the disruption in this industry is going to come from the fundamental demand for space.
Yeah.
That was a conversation stopper. Sorry.
You killed it there, right?
Well, you're going to ask ChatGPT or somebody, how much space do I really need? And everybody's afraid of that answer.
I think they are. I am.
It's always more.
Yeah, but I mean, even to go back to Mark's fundamental point, Mark, I mean, back to the code example that I use, right? And for those of you tinkering stuff like Arduinos and some of those, IoT platforms, which are kind of fun to tinker with, my previous model, if I ran up an Arduino and wanted to write some simple little application that blinked a light and, when a switch changed its function and stuff, The old model was I'd go to the Google and I say, hey, give me a bit of code that shows, blinky lights for an Arduino model, blah, blah, blah. And I'd find, 10, 20, 30 examples and in GitHub and all over the place. And then I'd have to go stream through it all. And then I have to take some snippet of code, and there's all these code share places, and I'd go code share and blah, 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 blah. And then I'd have to try and tweak it and stuff. I don't even do that anymore. Now I just go to ChatGPT and go, hey, write me an application that I've got a switch on pin 9 that blinks an LED on pin 17, for 20 seconds when the switch changes from off to on. ChatGPT writes it in seconds, and I can cut and paste and put it in. And I go, well, it didn't quite work. I actually wanted to change a few parameters. I go back, you can, in the stream, you can change the parameters. My point about that is a lot of our software guys are now using, instead of going to all their, code bases and snap snippets and GitHubs and wherever, and Google's, which is what they do today. They've always done that. Now they just use ChatGPT to say, here, write this module for me, and then they tweak it and change it and update. Now, still have to test it and all that sort of good stuff with it. It's not a freebie. But my point about that is that's changing a lot in our space on how software folks can just write applications and code and get stuff going.
And it's not just Arduinos or the toy level stuff. I mean, that Beagle board, that's industrialized now. And same thing with Raspberry Pis. 5 years ago, you couldn't with any seriousness say, I'm going to commercialize something based on one of these toys, an Arduino, for instance.
But at the end of the day, all that does is it just makes the creation of that code faster. It's
but that's my point. My point is there's an impact on our industry right there.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still architecturally, because one of the questions that we keep on coming back to is what is it? Where does it fit? Architecturally, it's just a code. It's just a piece of code somewhere.
But it's a crucial bit of code that runs the stuff that we do. I mean, this is the stuff that we do, right? So
right, and the code keeps track of all the different other devices.
Right.
Is the next frontier, right? That's the level. I don't know. We used to call it client server or whatever, but it's not client server anymore. It's real distributed application architectures. And that's
if I want to write a series of microservices that pump stuff out onto a Kubernetes pipe,
right?
I'm not writing it anymore from scratch. I'm not going to Google and just have ChatGPT write it for me. But my point is, your core stuff to the stuff we do, right?
But we've always been short of people, right? So to take Jim's comments and try and put this, so what we're really doing is we're amplifying the effect, the ability of the people to create. I'm sure that because your software programmers, Anno, can write faster, better code, I bet you got 10 more projects for them to do. And
exactly right.
And if you had somebody that knows how to use
things that I couldn't do before, I'm doing now, right?
Yeah, and if you could get more people that knew how to use this technology, you would hire them. So I think it's really like the steam engine. I mean, if you're shoveling dirt and the steam engine comes along, it looks like, wow, I'm never going to shovel dirt by hand again. But then you learn how to fix steam engines. This isn't really much different. It's just we have to learn how to use AI. It's an amplifier, I think, and I don't think it's just going to have folks doing different tasks. And because people are, we've also got this trend that works with Jim's comment, is that people don't want to work as long hours. I mean, take a look at our school system. Nobody ever goes to school anymore for hours at a time. It's unbelievable. But so we're training the new incoming people to basically work a few hours a day. We always heard talk of that. Now the problem is that's probably going to ripple back to our buildings, but I don't know. But I think the people will be employed. They will just be doing deeper job, being more productive.
Yeah, and I guess that's my point, right? The tentacles are all the way everywhere. Like Ken said, we're still shoveling. We could still be shoveling dirt, except now I'm doing it with a steam shovel instead of a whole bunch of men and shovels, right? Still shoveling dirt. Has it changed anything? No, I'm shoveling more dirt quicker, faster, right? I'm building more buildings. So my point about it is I don't just look at it as what are we changing? What's different? What are we doing that's, going to be different? Oh, Mark, are we going to still shovel dirt? Yeah. Are we just going to do it faster, better, cheaper? Probably. Right.
But let me ask you this, in your example here, coding, and I asked ChatGPT to go in there and it does. You then take it and for whatever reason you find it's not doing what you asked it to, then you manually have to go in there.
No, I don't I go back to ChatGPT.
Okay.
I need these changes. It'll go back to the code I wrote and we change it.
Mr. ChatGPT, she fixes it and you're happy. Now, let's say 6 months in, something really screws up with that program. It causes something.
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. You still have to do all your fundamental QA. You have to do all your UAT. You have to do all your acceptance testing. It doesn't take away from the test. Well, actually, sorry, let me take that back. It actually does my testing, because now I can actually write test scripts a lot faster, which I couldn't do before, which I will tell you that no one did. They said they did, but they didn't really write test scripts. Now I can have ChatGPT write test scripts that nobody actually said they were doing.
Validate the results.
And validate the results. So
but the point is, if something happens, will you, as the provider of that AI application or whatever, will you own the responsibility and take it when somebody says, man, you really screwed up, or this program screwed up, and you know what? I'm suing you for $25 million.
So it's no different to the 3 pods or 4 pods of developers that I've got in India today, Mark, that the guy who wrote a bit of code that didn't turn the LED on when it's supposed to, because I didn't do the test like I was supposed to, and it failed and it didn't turn the LED. He's long gone. Do I have to accept that responsibility? Of course I do.
Just wanted to ask the question, because I've had conversations with me. Oh, well, ChatGPT will take the responsibility. All right.
No,
that's
When you got that answer, let me know. Okay.
it's just that the lawsuit will happen a lot faster now.
That's true too. It'll have ChatGPT lawyers talking to each other.
That's right.
I wanted to add, before we get too far away from it, all of the stuff that we're talking about, and Anno summarized it kind of nicely there. And I love the steam shovel example. This effect of speeding everything up, making humans more productive, has a snowball effect to it, right? So it accelerates the learning, it accelerates the development of the next technology, the next new thing, the next whatever. And I think that's as promising as anything as far as a result of AI, in my mind.
That's the unknown piece, right? Even though I'm still shoveling dirt, the fact that I can do it faster means I can dig deeper basements, which means I can, what does that mean, from
right, exactly,
right, until you do it.
So there's another aspect that, and Jim's talking about the fact that the office buildings, the need for office building hospitals potentially are going down, but it does seem like, my friends that work for the big construction companies in town are busier than ever. And they're building entertainment venues, and they're building multifamily housing, and they're building sports complexes, and they're not building corporate offices anymore, I guess, but they're sure as hell building something. And Burns and McDonnell, holy cow, they hired 7,000 people every couple of months over here. So somehow there's still a ton of construction and demand for spaces. And that's sort of a question I've got, because the stock price of some of these companies and the employment is just going through the roof. So the demand for construction seems to still be going on fairly healthy.
It's just different to what we were doing, right?
Yeah. In entertainment, our friend Pete Scanlon was just at the Sphere over the weekend in Las Vegas, and that's $1 billion building that is purely for entertainment.
Well, they were about to build their first baseball environment, stadium, right, in Vegas.
Yeah.
We gotta do something with all that time we've saved.
Well,
Which
I
is
was
not
just
a
going to
bad thing.
mention that. I was just going to mention that, you know, for decades, it's always been sort of anticipated that AI is going to mean that we're going to have to not need to do so much work, right? So basically what we're hearing, and maybe you're right, Jim, maybe that's the way that AI will sort of morph itself or feed itself into society, is that it just reduces the time that we need to be at work, and we're all happy about it. We're all making, you know, same money or similar money, and we're all eating and surviving, and life is good.
We spend more time at the baseball stadium.
Well, the
Instead
other thing,
of-
Spend more time
If you
thinking
build
about
it,
what's
they will come.
next.
yeah, technology
Oh,
develops
I see. Very good.
technology though. Oops, sorry.
See
Sorry,
where,
Anna.
see where we're going with that.
No, sorry, Rick just closed the circle for us from the baseball.
Okay,
field.
another observation is that technology creates technology. If I go back to my shoveling, steam shovel, the water piping next door got dug up. The guy came in with a high pressure hose and a suction truck. And basically that's how he dug. So he's one guy with a high pressure hose cut right through the dirt, and then he had like a suction thing behind it. So these two technology machines were moving, and that's how they unearthed all of the piping and washed it all up, cleaned it up, and left a 1 foot thing in the thing. So there you got two technology companies that came from the invention of the steam engine, which generated the power, which generated the fuel to, you know, so everything it's all connected. So there's all these technologies that, and the AI will develop all kinds of technologies. Trust me.
There's a really interesting book that I recommend you should all read, called What Technology Wants. And I've never thought of technology from a perspective that it's actually wanting something. But this is the whole thesis of this book. It's written by somebody who's actually not from the technology field. And it's really interesting. And I'll give you the answer to the question. The answer is what technology wants is actually more technology.
Mhm.
And it never ends.
If
But
you
whenever
build
you
it, they
create-
will want more. Right.
Exactly right. If you build it, they'll figure out that it's not actually the right thing that you built, and they need to build something else.
That's a cycle. The technology treadmill has existed since there was technology, right? I remember when I worked at Intel, the kind of ongoing joke was, could we design new processors fast enough to keep up with how much the software guys were going to chew up in terms of processing resources and so forth, right? Every time we think the hardware is going to take a step forward, software is going to catch up. By the time the hardware came out, software was already making use of all the new features and capabilities and ready for the next one, by the way. So I can't imagine, you know, and that's the genesis of Moore's Law, right? I can't imagine that the same thing isn't going to happen here. This is going to be, you know, an amplified, accelerated Moore's Law that's going to kick in when it comes to the capabilities and abilities of AI here. I think over the next 5 years, there's going to be things we can't even imagine right now that have come out of this whole thing, that we never would have got there had something like ChatGPT didn't exist.
Actually, Tracy,
and
your comment about, you know, AI being a field of science. That's another direction, is let's look back over the last 20 years and how many new fields of science have we had? So what would prevent us from having something newer than AI come in, a whole new way of looking and thinking of things? So I think that's an interesting, once you threw it into that field category, and then
Yep.
we've been basically playing with AI since 1950. And we all feel that it's in its early days. So if somebody starts fiddling with something else and creates a whole new field of science, that the fields of science basically spawn the technologies, I believe.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm barely playing with it, and the things that we're doing in the amount of time that we're doing, you know, basic energy analysis, right? Before and after kind of energy analysis. it used to take, somebody a couple of hours to analyze a restaurant location before and after. And then, if we wanted to statistically prove its significance, that's another whole little chunk of time and so on and so forth. And now I can sit here and feed it spreadsheets and come up with that in 15 minutes or 10 minutes, right? So, and then you start, because that's so fast and easy, whoever was talking, Anna, I think, said, no, you just tell it to do it differently. I was doing all kinds of that because at first it wasn't giving me the right results, and I could tell that. And once I figured out how to ask it and what to ask for, the results were instantaneous and extremely repeatable at that point in time, right? So what else is, now it's back to human imagination. How can we imagine to apply this to buildings in some way that is novel, that we haven't thought of yet, to do something better, faster, cheaper, right? That to me is the promise of all of this. So
Actually, just you mentioning that one too, the one that we went right back to our analogy of the spreadsheet, and the fact that one of the cells of the spread, or any of the cells of the spreadsheet, can now do an AI call. Sort of boggles the mind. That caught me as just in simple things, as we were so enamored in the fact that we could do calls, we could create databases, we could pull information into a spreadsheet. Now all of a sudden we can start putting AI calls and have 2 AI calls come and put the result together. So yeah, it's amazing stuff.
I know at the end of the day, I'm not sure I'm going to go watch robots play baseball. That might be a stretch for me.
Yeah,
Probably.
I'd go to the first
boring as
game
well.
for sure. I'd go see it at least once. So
All right, so we just passed the hour. Rick, do you want to wrap this up? Go.
I think
for it.
we had a couple of good wrap ups already. And of course, I had fun with the whole Field of Dreams thing, because I am from Iowa, grew up just about an hour from Dyersville where the movie was filmed. And it's always been sort of inspirational. But that's always how I've thought and worked as well, as like as an optimist of wanting to be working for a company or working with a group of people who are looking at how to go take chances with technology specifically, because my entire life has been around technology. It's like finding people who want to take a chance to try and figure out how to leverage these new tools. Also, being from Iowa, that's what we did forever in farming. We're always looking for more ways to get more yield from a field. And so it was always just desperately looking for the next technology, because that's how you got efficiency to be able to feed the planet or whatever. So everybody's comments about the kind of the optimism around this being a tool that we've yet to see how it's going to apply to our space, that's just incredibly exciting. And so I'm thrilled that we're taking this approach, and it's fun to have everybody using their imagination and digging in a little bit on AI. So anyway, that's my little editorial comment.
From Iowa. Thank you very much.
Hey, the women, excuse me, the women are playing tonight at 6:10 and to make it to the Final Four. So go Caitlin.
all right.
Okay, cool. Very good.
pretty easy to root for her, isn't she?
Yeah, pretty easy. Yeah.
That's for sure.
All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks all for joining us. We'll get the video up by tomorrow, and we'll see you all next week. So bye-bye.
All right.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
all.